Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Roby and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about when retail is going to buy your bags.
That's what we're all interested in, right?
Yeah, I mean, typically that's a lot of money, right?
I would say so, but typically it's around this point where first we got to analyze where we're at in the market, right? And that typically starts with what's Bitcoin up to.
That's right.
Right? In the context of, understanding what phase of bull or bear market you're in. Everything hinges on Bitcoin, but it's becoming less so this day and age, again, according to some data we're seeing.
Yeah, prior to this cycle, it's been so easy.
Yeah, right?
Or at least up until this cycle, it's been easy trying to figure out when the bull market starts. And I guess the whole crux of this video is that we're starting to see like a divergence between Bitcoin's uppings,
Price action
to other kinds of price actions, like in the altcoin section.
Or I guess more so Bitcoin's price action correlating to an onboarding influx of new users into our space, right?
Yeah.
Typically, Bitcoin was that Trojan horse where it's more retail participants. So first of all, let's talk about what is a retail.
Yeah.
Who is retail among us?
Yeah, it's not simple to define, but I would guess your family members. If you're watching this, you're not part of retail. Yeah. To a certain extent, right? We're all part of retail, but really, we're in the know if you're watching this video. It's really your family. When they start asking you questions about which meme coin should I buy, yeah, that's like retail activity.
Yeah, I think it's whenever the market demographic as a whole, something clicks. I guess, it originates typically with people like us who spend an unhealthy amount of time.
Yeah, I would say so.
Mentally fixed on these markets, right? Because we get first mover advantage onto any new trend. Mm-hmm. It's typically what we like to do. And by the way, we're back, guys, after a 2-week absence. But that's what we're coming back to this, right? It's the same thing. We need to find these potential emerging trends because we see what's happening with Bitcoin, right? It's literally in price discovery mode as we speak.
110,000, give or take.
That's a new all-time high, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a high number, 110K. It's just finished a recent local reaccumulation zone, bouncing between 70 and 100K.
That's right.
So who knows where it goes from here? It could go 150K, and then maybe have another local reaccumulation zone, or that's the top.
Yeah.
We don't really know, but typically, these are the moments where the market kind of just sits on its hands to kind of observe this and understand, where is Bitcoin going? Is it going to top out at this price, or is it going to gather up more steam for another higher up thing? Mm-hmm. But what's of real interest, I think, to most people, and the data suggests this, is what about the rest of the space? Where do we allocate in response to this? Because typically, once Bitcoin finds its top and then finds its new correction stage, this is where these killer products emerge, right? Last cycle is NFTs. Mm-hmm. This cycle, potentially memes and other types of crypto native experiences, right?
Yeah.
So first we got to lock in on Bitcoin, right? What are we looking at right now so we can kind of get our bearings straight?
Yeah, so this is the rainbow chart that we referenced several times in the history of this channel. Mm-hmm. And right now, so this isn't this is just a nonlinear regression curve. And it tries to predict the price of Bitcoin, right? And so it gives you these ranges. So let me zoom in to kind of this cycle's range. If we zoom in here, we're still clear in the green zone. And throughout the history of Bitcoin, we've seen it reach at least orange every single time, at least orange. So this time it might not even reach orange. It just could go to, let's say, 200,000. And then that's pretty much it, or less than that.
Yeah, it's really hard to hinge any kind of prediction, right?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Because if you're doing that last cycle by referencing the cycle previous to it, you would see it in the red zone, right?
That's right.
And so it's whoever developed this nice little banded model to kind of give you sentiment checks around entry and exit zones for Bitcoin. It's all right, well, the market pushed this asset to an extreme sell category, right, in the red zone. So it's feasible to assume it's going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean that was a cycle where everybody was saying 100,000,
100K.
100K Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty prevalent.
And that was well within the red zone here.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people were setting their sell targets there, right? And then that means whenever you see it dip there in the orange zone, you're not selling.
Yeah.
You're holding, waiting
right.
for it to go back up, back into the red zone. And then guess what happens? You're holding the thing all the way
down
to today, and you're finally like up.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. When you're over here, this is like $65,000 Bitcoin, and the whole internet is telling you 100K is programmed.
Yeah.
Like there's still a huge percentage gain if you hold.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, you're holding over here at $60,000.
So that's why, it's dangerous. Okay. So the previous cycle, it's like orange zone. Okay. Maybe yellow is like a logical conclusion, right?
That's right.
It's just as Bitcoin, it requires more like capital injection in order for these price action, amplitudes to occur. It's like yellow's a feasible like sell option this time, but then it's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe it goes beyond the red this time.
No, let's say you actually learn your lessons. Like, I'm not holding this time.
Yeah.
Right. And then it hits yellow. So let's see what yellow is. Let's say 150 to 200 range.
I feel like that's a reasonable range.
Right. So you sell, right? It's like, okay, you press the sell button.
Yeah.
Then it reaches 220, 250, 300, and then you're just like, you're sad again.
Very sad.
Yeah.
But not so sad, right? Because you still sold on the upside, right? So there's different strategies around this where you don't have to sell the whole boat in like one clip.
Yeah.
Cost averaging your way out of the market just like you're supposed to be doing coming into the market when things are going down. So this is the rhythm and the nature of being a retail participant in this market. But Bitcoin, is not what we're seeing. It's not really like retail friendly anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're going to try and break down why, right?
Yeah. And it's that's why it's so difficult to kind of like pick a number and to sell by. But let's see. CoinGecko saying Bitcoin all-time high. It's at 108 according to this tweet. And that was a few days ago. Yeah. Right now it's 110. I saw it hit 112.
Yeah. And if you remember, literally like a month ago on this channel, it was feeling pretty disparage out there.
Yeah.
People, when Bitcoin was hovering around 70K, people just couldn't believe it. It's like the sky was falling.
Yep.
Total scam. Donald Trump presidency. Total fluke.
Yep.
All that, right? And then a month later, things are good again. Rosy. Just like that. Snap of a finger.
Yeah. Things are good, but still, even at 110,000 Bitcoin, like it's still like, it's weird.
Still what?
It's still, It's like,
Why do you think it's
I don't know. I think it's because a lot of people, let's say they were holding at 60,000, like you're now it's at 110,000.
Yeah, that might be. So this is another contributing factor to why, we're seeing less retail like sentiment around Bitcoin, right? If you go check on this link here, the next one, or one of these, it
1 second.
It points out, well, not this one.
This one.
I guess I don't know if I included it here, but there's a sentiment correlation between, typically people would be Google searching Bitcoin at this time.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
right?
This one.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that this time around. Right?
Yeah, we're talking about $110,000 Bitcoin, and like nobody's looking it up.
Nobody cares, and I feel that even from like my family perspective, nobody's really asking about Bitcoin, even though it's
Yeah, I haven't gotten any messages like, "Hey, dude, Bitcoin's at 100, 110." It's like nothing.
Yeah, so this could indicate a couple of things, right? Either Bitcoin has reached some new like tranche as like an asset, an individual asset in its own right, where it's just no longer of interest to like the typical retail buyer, right? Somebody doesn't have like too much to really put into anything because of a lot of reasons, right? Maybe because of the fact that these price action movements, they're so minuscule, like really there's very minimal impact on, however much capital you have to allocate.
Yeah.
So it's really not even like a real instrument of use anymore for retail.
Yeah, when Bitcoin's up 5%, that's a big day.
For non-retail people.
For non-retail, yeah.
For institutional investors, right? Because you're talking people who like MicroStrategy and BlackRock who are putting in billions.
Yeah.
Into this asset, right? So
a
5% day is
you're
great.
up $50 million. Well, that's a good day.
Yeah, but some retail people like us, we got Coinbase on our phone, we got Robinhood, we got Kraken, whatever. at max, I got like 5 to 10K to
Yeah.
put into these markets.
You're up $50,
I can get me like the
$500.
yeah, the fucking combo supreme on the weekend or something, dude. You know, it doesn't really change much. So Bitcoin, it's become kind of a snooze asset at that point, right?
Yeah.
It didn't used to be like that, but now it is.
But you know who doesn't think it's snooze?
People with money.
Trump. That's right.
He's a man with money, dude.
That's right. Trump Media Group to raise $3 billion to buy Bitcoin, according to the Financial Times.
That's a lot of money. So, key word here: raise.
Yeah, it is raise. Same thing MicroStrategy is doing. He's raising a bunch of money and buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, and they're not alone in this. There's a lot of data to suggest that there's a chart here that shows like who's buying Bitcoin actually.
Yeah. It says businesses are the largest net buyer of Bitcoin so far this year, led by Strategy, which makes up 77% of its growth.
Yeah, I mean, this is completely different, dude. This is a whole new dynamic to the market we've never experienced yet.
You know, yeah, 100%. We've never experienced this, but we predicted it several cycles ago that this was how it was supposed to happen.
It was the only way.
It was the only way.
It was the only way Bitcoin was going to hit those milestone targets that we knew it had to hit in order for it to maintain that nonlinear regression growth curve.
Yeah, and to say that institutional investors are buying Bitcoin today and it's larger compared to individuals, the retail, like this is just the beginning, right? We have like probably 100 companies buying Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is another signal, right? That Trump, is kind of like all inning on this like MicroStrategy
strategy.
Michael Saylor MicroStrategy, whatever.
Yeah.
It's no longer MicroStrategy, right? It's Bitcoin strategy now.
Yeah, his strategy, right?
Okay, whatever. It's working. It's proliferating, and it's gonna definitely be the fuel to get Bitcoin where it needs to go this cycle. And what are the bounds to that? That's up to the individual speculator, right? Like,
yeah,
we're gonna see
you
bigger.
Think, I guess if you think about it, retail is not buying Bitcoin.
No,
we have institutional parties buying Bitcoin. Once more institutions keep buying Bitcoin, the price could continue to go up. Let's say it reaches 250, 300,000. They're not the ones pulling the trigger to sell. They're going to buy these assets and hold it, right? Don't you think?
Yes. That's what's different because I think before this cycle, before institutional involvement in ETFs and such, and corporate
acquisitions,
corporate strategy,
yeah,
it was a retail fueled a growth phenomenon for this new digital asset emergence, right?
So the fact that retail buying Bitcoin and Bitcoin going up, it's easy for them to also sell Bitcoin, and therefore that's the end of the cycle.
Well, yeah, but typically that wasn't the end. It was like experience the wealth accrual of buying and being on like the Bitcoin upside, and then once it reaches that market top, redisperse that new net wealth gain to the rest of the crypto market, which was like that's why Ethereum flourished. That's why ICOs boomed. That's why NFTs was like such a hot sector, right? Because as Bitcoin keeps going up, all this new wealth is created online.
Yeah.
And it's like now these new digital products have like that much fuel and steam to grow. Right?
Yeah. I remember the good old days on Binance. It's like Bitcoin to Ethereum ratio. You just swap the tokens and you're done.
Good times, dude.
Yeah.
They were very early in like the ICO. I remember Binance's like first days coming online, like they came online with ICOs ready on the docket.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Including Tron and others, right? So it's like they came and brought in like the next wave of products as Bitcoin was exploding and stuff like that, right? So, but this time, you're right. The people who are pushing Bitcoin up this cycle, and we'll get it to 200K-ish.
Yeah.
They're not going to sell this thing. They're just going to hold on to their positions, right? And even if they do sell.
What does that mean, though?
I don't know.
Now number doesn't really go down all that much. Like, I think the spot value of Bitcoin could still go down.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so it's like.
Number will go down, but what I'm saying is like
there won't be that much like hand changing of that Bitcoin.
Yeah, I guess. There won't be as much like redistribution of value, trickle down effect to the rest of the market.
That's true. Yeah.
Which I think for people like us, people who watch us, us retailers, this is of grave interest to us, right? It's like, okay, if there's no like trickle down effect as a result of Bitcoin's like new wealth creation that's now allocated to the elite class, not the retail class, what do the rest of us do? Like, what is our new endeavor? to like essentially profit from, right?
Yeah, and like you're saying, if there's no trickle down effect, then there has to be something else
Yeah.
that inspires retail.
Some other new steam engine. It's not Bitcoin is no longer the steam engine of crypto.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As it has been. As it had to be.
Yeah.
In order for like all this new stuff to kind of come about and to, yeah, like you said, galvanize interest and therefore capital flow into this direction, right? It's not.
Yeah.
It's a different capital flowing to Bitcoin. So it's like, what do you have to do?
I feel like we're dealing with like a cold start situation because it's like it could be anything, right? It could be Ethereum finally explodes just because it's like a familiar name in the context of crypto. But then it could be like these apps that we're seeing like Pump.Fun.
I'm leaning towards that.
Yeah, because that has generated billions in volume already. And it feels like it's been flying under the radar too, like to a large degree, like from a retail perspective.
Yeah, it caught the winds of people's radars for brief moments in time. And then that was like very short-lived, right? But I guess like more iterations of that still carries that same potential, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's got to ping the radar of like retail attention, right? Which typically is like social media. You know, you got to get some big TikToker or some big, streamer talking about some new platform that does some new thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much like the crypto side of things. It's just, I don't know. It's a new thing that people are interested in, and there's like value potential there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're relying on, I guess, the influencer capital to really direct the energy of retail.
That's that plus like developer like understanding, I guess, of like what it is they need to be working on and building to increase like the vectors of probability that you can actually strike these nerves, right?
I see. So as a developer, you're saying you have to build an app that is unique enough, different from like your competitors, but that also attract the attention of the people directing the traffic, like influencers.
I guess so. Yeah, it's harder to say. It's hard to say because last cycle we were having these similar conversations while Bitcoin was like experiencing its banana growth, banana zone growth. And we're like, what are the things that people are going to end up like trickling into, right? NFTs, the metaverse possibly. And like, all those things, eventually they struck a nerve and they resonated with the market and they showed up.
That's true. Right? Yeah, Bitcoin reached its all-time high, both like in March and then in November. And then that's when Zuckerberg changed the name to Meta. And like you had, an additional leg. I mean, that's when Bored Apes, they sold their land, $500 million.
Yeah.
And so it's like that trickle down effect really took hold in that cycle, but there's a chance it might not happen in this cycle.
Maybe. Or maybe another thesis to throw out there, because that's what we're doing, I guess. We're trying to like brainstorm like how we are envisioning like the next 12 months to play out. Maybe, maybe the small percentage of retail that is in Bitcoin, the newness vector of that they get to participate on this upside of growth. There's still like a Bitcoin ecosystem being built.
Yep.
Like that's what's different in comparison to previous cycles, right? There was no real Bitcoin. There's
That's
no way
point.
to like leverage your Bitcoin into something new. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last cycle was more like Ethereum, right? There was a lot of things to use your ETH for, like buying NFTs, whatever.
Yeah, over the weekend I was looking at the mempool for Bitcoin. It was still like 1 sat per VByte.
Crickets?
So, yeah, still crickets. But that represents an opportunity, right? If people discover the fact that you can actually put content on Bitcoin, I feel like there's a vector of resurgence there.
That's actually a pretty strong parallel to, again, this time where we were 4 years ago, previous cycle, where I remember looking at DApp Radar and like different NFT metric aggregators, data aggregators, and looking at the volume of NFTs, it was so pathetic.
Yeah,
like
I remember.
The top NFT was probably like Decentraland Land, 100,000 in volume, and then all the subsequent NFT collections, like tens of thousands. You're like, dude, there's no way this is going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But look where it went.
That's true. That's true.
So it could be a similar scenario, right? Where we look at the mempool today on the Bitcoin ecosystem side of things and we're like, man, this is pathetic.
Yep.
Truly looks that way.
Yeah.
But 6 months from now, it might be so clogged, because of so many different things, right?
Yeah, and then if you go back a year ago, the ordinals ecosystem was the most happening thing in crypto. So happening that every chain copied its nature.
The inscriptions?
Inscription asset, yeah.
It's true. Yeah, so there's still hopium, in other words, right? Like,
yeah,
just because Bitcoin no longer is this like wealth creation engine for the retail side of the market, it's just like we're all sidelined at this point if you don't have like a proper allocation.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think most like trenchers out there don't.
No. The trenchers now, they're like 20 years old.
That's true.
They have like $100 from their graduation to like put in. And it's like, what am I gonna buy? It's like, which meme coin?
It's either a meme coin or a Fortnite skin, dude. Those are your choices of like capital allocation management, dude.
Yeah,
that's what you have to deal with.
Yeah, with a meme coin, like you could turn $100 into 10,000 if you're lucky.
That would be very lucky.
Yeah.
But it happens. Yeah, and that's the allure, right? That's the appeal. I mean, all you can do with a Fortnite skin is just
it's like flex dude.
On your homies, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, dude. So we got interesting new market dynamics to, not only observe here, but partake in, it's crypto at the end of the day. We've been doing this long enough to know it's like, it's really hard to predict where all this shit's going to go, but it always ends up happening one way or another. Like crypto finds a way to really capture the zeitgeist somehow.
Yeah, and this chart, it's there for a guide just to give you some sort of reference point, but yeah, it's not, it's no, oracle here, right? It's not going to tell you the future. Yeah. So yeah, stay careful out there and don't allocate too much funds to anything too crazy. But yeah, I mean, I feel like right now, this is the point where we need to start looking for that opportunity because, like you're saying, it's going to happen. You just need to figure out where the action is and where retail is going to put their chips on.
Yeah, that's to try and identify these long-term market trends that today might not seem that potentially fruitful,
Yeah.
But 6 months from now, they could be like literally the biggest of things, right? It could be, like we're saying, something ordinals native, could be DMT stuff, could be new iterations of these like meme launch pads, right? Like we saw with, we haven't even talked about like some of the newer ones because we've been gone for a couple of weeks, but there's been a lot of like new extensions to what Pumped Out Fun has brought to the market, with new attempts of like capturing that market velocity and applying it in new directions. So we'll probably make some videos around that stuff here in the next couple of weeks, just kind of catch everybody back up about like, what are these new market vectors that are being worked on today?
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, if we miss anything, definitely let us know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.